yeah, I don't like nice people. I think nice people suck. And I know that's probably a bit of a provocative title, and I will go on to explain what I mean. Um, but I'm suspicious of nice people. I find them disingenuous. I find them grating and slimy. And the reason I don't trust nice people is because it's not real. What they're doing is performative. What they're doing is out of obligation. Their behavior comes from a place of feeling like, I should do this, I should do that. It's conditional, not from a genuine place of kindness. And I want to make that differentiation really clear right from the offset, which is that niceness is not the same as kindness, okay? Kindness is coming from a genuine place. It comes from a place of like your heart, genuineness, genuine desire, genuinely wanting to kind of give of yourself or do things or be there for somebody. Niceness is done out of manners, out of obligation, out of politeness, performativeness. It's just not the same. And you could literally be like a really nice person objectively, but not have a kind bone in your body, like not actually care about people genuinely, not be actually like somebody who is safe and kind and, or well, obviously kind, but safe and considerate and communicative and yeah, like just somebody that people can rely on and trust that they will be there for them. I just think niceness feels slimy to me. And it's interesting that I feel like I do feel qualified realistically to talk about this because I grew up with family who really prioritized niceness, keeping up appearances, making sure that everything looked nice on the outside, but inside were like some of the cruelest people, were emotionally abusive. And I also took on some of those niceties, some of those things. You know, through school, I survived by being nice. I always put my needs behind everybody else's. I always struggled with confrontation, advocating for myself, boundaries, because I was so scared of somebody thinking that I like wasn't nice, that somebody would think that I'm a bad person, that somebody would think that, you know, there was something negative, I guess, about me. I was so hell-bent on controlling how people perceived me to the point where I completely abandoned myself. That's what I was taught, right, through my upbringing, because that's what my parents did. And as I got to uni, I started to shed those things. I realised that they were not only pointless but actively harmful, like actively not helping me at all. It meant that I manifested people who took advantage of the niceness, took advantage of the fact that I couldn't advocate for myself or set boundaries or stand up for myself, that relied on my self-silencing to get what they wanted from me. It meant that I attracted those kind of relationships where I was doing all the emotional labour and they were taking liberties, taking full advantage. And it was quite difficult actually when I got to, I'd say like 24, 25, I started to really look around me and think, fuck me. A lot of these people in my life, friends most notably, relied on my lack of boundaries, relied on me being this kind of like nice version of myself. The one that was, you know, didn't take up space, wasn't a bother, always took on all the emotional labour, never held people accountable when I felt hurt by what they'd done. And I went through this phase of being like, shit, I need to get rid of these people. They are dragging me down. I'm not going to be able to achieve what I want to achieve or even self-actualize or feel good about myself if I have these people around. They're fucking drains. And I kind of went through this process of what I call like the people pleaser purge, where I basically purged my life really painfully. Actually, it wasn't like as quick as like bye, see ya, like cut them off, like no contact, anything like that, because obviously that's probably how I respond now. Like I understand now that sometimes confronting people is actually more dangerous and more explosive and worse for you than just deciding to like walk away. There's a time and a place, you know, you got to use your discretion, whatever you think's best. But at this time, I wanted to confront these people. I wanted to be like, nah, you don't get to talk to me like that. You don't get to treat me like that anymore. I'm done. And I did. I there was 5 or 6, no, maybe not 5 or 6, maybe like 3 or 4 instances with single friends, but also groups of friends where I think for the first time I set a boundary or I stood up for myself or advocate for myself, and the reaction was horrific. Like they really hated it. They would blame it back on me or put the blame back on me. I remember one person, I said, you know, please don't speak to me like that, or you don't get to talk to me like that. And they told me that I needed to get help for like my mental health because of that. People are so conniving. People are so mad when you start advocating for yourself. What's crazy is that bitch has a child, which I'm like, somebody else, I remember like I told them how I felt. And granted, again, when you go through this people pleaser kind of like phase of being like starting to remove these like people because you're no longer interested in being nice, obviously the reaction can sometimes be gaslighting and minimization, and people don't like it. And sometimes you do it imperfectly as well. Like if I look back on certain situations, I'm like, I wish I'd maybe done it in a different way. Basically, I told this one particular friend at the time how I'd been feeling for a long time. And initially she was sound about it, but then afterwards she kind of had time to think about it and then went on to tell me that nobody else in her life thought the same way as me, and trying to self-soothe and kind of convince herself that she wasn't the person that I kind of suggested she was based on my experience with her. So there will be obviously some backlash, but I just think it's interesting. I think as well, like that particular friend was very conscious of how she came across and how she was perceived. And I think when you're so conscious and so like worried about how you're perceived, you end up kind of becoming like a low-key, like a bad person, because you're trying to control so much of what you cannot control, that you come across as disingenuous, you come across like you're trying to manage people, you come across like, you know, people can sense when you're not being yourself, people can sense your lack of authenticity. And because you're being inauthentic, I'm having to do all this emotional labour to be inauthentic, the people who are closest to you, who actually get to see this authentic side, get to see all the resentment, all the self-loathing that comes out when you can finally just be yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like I think about this with my family, like my parents would pretend so much in front of other people, but then with me and my brother, we'd get the worst of the behaviour. Like we were the only people who my family could, or my parents felt like they could just be like completely themselves, and their complete selves were so self-loathing because they had to pretend all day, they had to put on a mask all day, they had to pretend to be nice all day, they had to you know, perform all day, which is obviously really fucking exhausting for anybody. And then we'd have that would be taken out on the kids and or each other obviously. And I just think it's such a destructive thing, worrying about being a nice person. It's so destructive to not only you but the people around you. Having to pretend all the time it's killing you. Being nice is deadly. Like spending your entire life never feeling like you could be yourself, never being able to relax, never being able to find acceptance for exactly who you are, it's horrific. And I know this because I've been there. And now as somebody who I think to a very far extent has unmasked, feels like I can be myself, feels like I can be authentic around the right people who I've chosen and curated my friendship circle, I don't have any clouds over me right now. I literally go to bed peacefully. Usually I'd be up at night overthinking, overanalyzing, thinking about my social anxiety, thinking, oh, there's something wrong with me, everybody hates me, I'm the problem. I don't even worry about that now. I'm like, if you don't like me, that's fine, I don't care, the right people will. I'm okay with being polarizing. And when you're okay with being polarizing, you're fucking free. You're free. I've just realised I'm pretty sure this camera angle is skewed, so I'm just gonna put it there. Yeah, you're free. You're free to be exactly who you are. And when you don't have to pretend, you're not having to do all this emotional labour, you're not having to do all this exhausting pretending all day. I couldn't get anything done because I was so exhausted from pretending all day. I couldn't focus on my dreams. I couldn't even work towards my dreams because I was so worried about what people would think, because I had all the wrong people around me. And when you're nice, you attract the wrong people because they're not attracted to you, your genuine self. They're attracted to what you're projecting. And because what you're projecting is pretend, you're having to continue to keep up the pretense. And when you continue to keep up the pretense, it wears you down. It like erodes your soul. And it means that you don't have the emotional capacity, first of all, to work on your dreams, but you also don't have the confidence to work on your dreams because you're like, well, if anybody knew who I really was, then you know, they'd reject me. I'd be socially ostracized. So you never actually get to do anything you want to do because you're worried about being judged. You're worried about people judging the real you because you're pretending all day. That's where, like, I think imposter syndrome can sometimes come in. Not for everybody, but for a lot of people, it's because there's a mismatch between who they really are and what the world knows them to be. And they're so scared of revealing who they really are that they don't do it, and they ended up either experiencing imposter syndrome or giving up completely because they're so terrified of what other people are going to think. Niceness is a coping mechanism. Niceness is, and I'm saying this from somebody who was taught this. It wasn't my fault that I was taught this. Like, this was, you know, I've unlearned it to a far extent, I hope. And it was put on me rather than something that I maybe decided to do. But it is a cope. You're trying to cope with the fear that people will reject you. You're trying to cope with the fear of being socially ostracized or being polarizing or being judged for who you really are. Because if you're always projecting, if you're always pretending, if you're always doing things out of obligation, nobody gets to see the real you. So really, you're protecting yourself. You're protecting your true self from being judged and misunderstood and misrepresented. It's a tough pill to swallow, and I've only just kind of realised it as I've been telling you this. Like, fuck, that's a hits blunt moment. Like, it is a pretense. It is a cope. It's like trying to deal with basically those lower vibrations, you know, of shame, of fear, of guilt. You're avoiding. It's avoidance. You're avoiding those difficult feelings of guilt, shame, and fear by somebody knowing who you really are and not liking it or not accepting it. And granted, you know, I don't think any of us ever go through life being like, I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks, I'm just going to be myself. Like, there's always that fear or that element of like, oh yeah, they're definitely judging me, like they're definitely, you know, misrepresenting me. But you just kind of do it anyway, and I think that's the difference. You just keep going anyway, and I think the people that maybe prioritize niceness wouldn't do it anyway. So yeah, I think really, I kind of went off on a bit of a tangent there, but I think niceness versus kindness, there is a huge difference. And niceness feels icky. Niceness feels slimy. There's somebody that I work with actually, and I'm sure she considers, like, she lacks so much self-awareness, but like, I'm sure she considers herself to be like a really kind person. She like has it in her bio on her socials. Like, she always tells me that she's a kind person. And I actually kind of said to her the other day, she was talking about how she's dating somebody and somebody saying, like, asking her for something. And her response was like, oh, well, I did it because I'm such a kind person. And I'm like, no, that's a nice thing. Like, I said that to her, I was like, that's you being nice. I wouldn't say that's you being kind, because kindness also includes yourself, and that, you know, giving of yourself in that particular situation would not have been kind to yourself. That would have just been you being nice. You're doing it out of obligation. You're doing it to come across a certain way. And I think that's the thing. It's like, where is it coming from? Is it coming from a place of like wanting to come across a certain way, or is it coming from a place of genuinely wanting to do something? Because if you genuinely want to do something, you're genuinely being kind, you don't expect anything in return. There's no expectation of like, well, I'll get this back, or like, I'll be perceived in this particular way, I'll be rewarded in this particular way. No, kind people don't do that. Kind people just get on with it, do what they want. They have things come from the heart, from a place of love, and they don't expect anything in return. It's not this transactional like vibe, whereas niceness is, if I hold the door open for you, you're going to say thank you. It's always funny, isn't it? Because like sometimes this will happen, like somebody will maybe like move out of the way in the street for me or something small like that, and I don't always say thank you, depending on the situation. Maybe I just you know, I'm just like focused, I'm like walking down the road, and sometimes you get like a sneer of like, oh fuck's sake. It's like, because you did it out of obligation. You didn't do it because you're like a genuinely kind person. It's not part of your character. You're doing it to come across a certain way, or because you feel like you have to. That's icky. That's like slimy to me. It feels off. And like I said about this colleague, you know, she always says that she's like a kind person and stuff. Like, she can be so cutting and so like say quite mean things sometimes, but the thing is, like, she'll always kind of like overcompensate for it by being really sickly sweet and like calling me pet names, or like saying, like, being just like over complimentary, or being suddenly really like really nice and like gushing and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's disingenuous. And I think she's confused because I still kind of treat her consistently the same, like, out of obviously respectfully, but I never kind of like, I don't know, get too invested in like being really like my true self with her, because I know that she doesn't have the self-awareness to clock the difference between being genuinely kind and being nice. Like, I think she's definitely a definition of somebody who's like nice but isn't actually a good person, because she has no self-awareness around like actually being kind. She does rude things or disrespectful things and then marries it with like them being like overly gushing, overly complimentary, overly like nice. It's not just like do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And so it just feels off. And I think as well, like a lot of nice people have this kind of like cognitive dissonance. They think, oh, well, my intention was this, so therefore I'm a nice person or a good person. It's like, yeah, but sometimes your intention isn't always the impact that it has. And they don't want to hear about the impact. They don't want to hear about how their behaviour might have affected somebody negatively, because in their head, they're like, well, my intention was good, so therefore I must be a good person. And it just doesn't really work like that, you know? Like, if we stand on somebody's foot on the tube, we automatically say sorry, because even though like we didn't intend to hurt them, we have, and we understand that the impact is that they're hurt, so we say sorry. And I wish people could understand the same concept when it comes to like, you know, verbal things or like intangible situations, where somebody has been hurt. It wasn't your intention, but you still apologize, you still say sorry, because at the end of the day the impact wasn't the same as your intention. But I think a lot of people are not willing to hold themselves accountable and understand that impact doesn't equal intention. So a lot of people are walking around thinking they're good people and they're nice people, but they're not actually kind. They're not actually like genuinely great people, because they can't hold themselves accountable. You know, it's like they're eluding themselves and deluding themselves into thinking they're good people, and actually they leave a trail of destruction behind them. So realistically, I'm just very distrustful of nice people. I find them slimy. I also know that they're not the sort of people that will have a spine. They're the sort of people that, say if you have friends like this, they're not going to stand up for you when somebody is disrespectful towards you. They're not going to they're not going to back your corner. They're not going to have a spine or be brave enough to back your corner when somebody else is being hurtful, when you're not there and you can't defend yourself. They're not going to stand up for you. They're not going to advocate for you. They're going to always sit on the fence, because they always want to be perceived as nice, and they always want to be perceived as like, you know, the good girl, or like performing that role, not to rock the boat, otherwise they're going to get ostracized as well. Like, fuck that. Spineless behaviour, it's boring, it's icky, it's not a vibe. Bye-bye. Kind people have integrity. Kind people understand that kindness also includes confrontation. Kindness also includes holding people accountable. Because it's like, who are you being kind to? Like, if my friend was being insulted in front of me, not that anybody would dare do that, because they know that I'd say something, but if they did, I'd be like, no, I don't back that, and obviously then hold them accountable and say, I don't rate that at all. That's being kind to my friend. That's not being nice. Yeah, other people are going to be like, she's not very nice, but like, I don't care, because I've been kind to my friend. That's genuine kindness, because you're advocating for your friend. Niceness would be like, oh, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want people to be offended with me. You're fucking selfish. You're selfish. Niceness is so fucking selfish. It's so self-centered and all about keeping up appearances and maintaining dishonest harmony. Like, ew, it's disgusting to me, and it's so unattractive in friends, relationships, family members. Like, no thank you. I can't stand it. I just don't like disingenuous people. I can't trust them. So untrustworthy. Cannot be honest with them. They're slimy. No. So the conclusion, I suppose, really of this video is to prioritize being kind. Kindness looks like standing up for people. Kindness looks like telling people to fuck off sometimes. Kindness looks like doing something genuinely, and also being kind to yourself, like self-advocation, backing your own corner, being kind to you, and not abandoning yourself. You know, not abandoning yourself with the goal of like always being perceived as the good person and the nice person and the easy person. No. I could even do like a whole other video on like niceness when it comes to like women and misogyny and how it operates for women specifically, because it is quite a gendered thing. I could definitely talk about that in another video, because again, men expect niceness from women, and when they don't perform it, they're like mad about it. but I think this is sufficient for this video. So yeah, I just wanted to know what your thoughts are on like the sort of nice versus kind debate, and you know, which one you feel like you either do or you kind of feel frustration about other people in the sense of like they exhibit these characteristics. I would really like to know. Definitely sound down in the comments below. As usual, this video is sponsored by my People Pleaser to Powerhouse course, which is a 4-week self-led course which is all about literally what we've spoken about in this video. There's literally a module on niceness versus kindness and how you're going to kind of start moving towards the latter and start thinking from a place of the latter rather than performing and being nice, because obviously this is a people pleaser thing. It's not our fault, but we do need to unlearn it. So that's one module. But it basically takes you from like being this version of yourself that can't advocate for yourself, that struggles to back your own corner, doesn't have boundaries, struggles to say no, burn out, like always putting yourself behind everybody else, to then being this really magnetic, like going from chasing to attracting, being this like, you know, mad aura, like just crazy attractive individual, being authentic, unmasking, rediscovering who you really are. That's what this transformation looks like. So go ahead and click the link below, read all about it. I've got the modules there, and you could do like a split payment or full payment, it's up to you. But anyway, with that, thank you so much for watching today's video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.